Well, good evening today. It's Ali El Bar Yeshua here. Today is April the 21st, 2012, and I just wanted to give an update on things that are going around that some of the mainstream media doesn't cover, or at least they don't cover it very well. It recently came across my attention, thanks to Brandon Bell, that I believe it's either the Senate or the Congress. It's the Congress is trying to pass House Resolution 308. That's House Resolution 308, and basically it's another high-capacity magazine ban. Any pistol magazines or rifle magazines that are over 10 rounds will be banned, and I was looking at the clause, and I think it said that if you already own them, you're basically grandfathered in. But there's new gun owners every day. Everybody knows who uses magazines that eventually they get worn out or broken or they need replacement parts. And if this House resolution passes, it'll be nearly impossible for the American people to defend themselves against a foreign invasion or well-armed criminals who are carrying fully automatic assault rifles anyways. Or defend themselves against their own tyrannical government. But in any case, that's by the majority that is supported by the Democrats. Let's see here, April 19th, 2012. April 19th, 2012, Charles Dyer, also known as July4Patriot, was convicted in a kangaroo court in Marlow, Oklahoma. He had a 8-woman, 4-man jury selected by the prosecution. There was no DNA evidence that the prosecution could put forth. When the defense cross-examined Valerie Dyer, who I have recently discovered to be tremendously more hideous than I had ever imagined, the defense found inconsistencies with Valerie Dyer's statements, and the jury, after deliberating for 4 hours, came back with a guilty verdict and recommended a sentence of 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, the only hard evidence that the prosecution had for this was a video of Charles Dyer's daughter confessing on camera, she wasn't even in the court, of all the things that supposedly happened to her. And of course the prosecution was asking the questions to the little girl. Let's see here, and in any case, it's going to move on to the appeals court. And hopefully, he'll be released and vindicated. But the reason why I have a problem with this is there are 2 reasons. The first reason was that Charles Dyer is an oath keeper. Some people will deny that he is an oath keeper, but he was a member of the Oath Keepers organization before they actually had registration and before people started paying membership dues. So when Charles was a member of the Oath Keepers, the only thing you had to do back then was slap on an Oath Keepers shirt, support your local Oath Keepers chapter, and come out to rallies and whatnot. Charles Dyer also openly spoke out against the United States federal government on the internet, on the sidewalk, and he even said that he was willing to put his life on the line to wake people up. And in this case, it seems to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, secondly, his conviction fell on April 19th, 2012. Now, if we take a look into today from the perspective of history, the American Revolution against the British Empire began April 19th, 1775. The Branch Davidian massacre by federal agents happened April 19th, 1993. The Oklahoma City bombing, which was instigated, supplied, and organized by federal agents, happened April 19th, 1995. I don't know what the shadowy puppet lords of our federal government, I don't know the reason why April 19th is so special to them, but it's got to be some kind of demonic holiday, because all the shit bad that happens against freedom-loving people tends to happen on that day. And you can look at it as a coincidence, or you can see that 2 + 2 + 2 = 6 and wake the fuck up. Now, B, the second reason why his conviction has pissed me off, has been the cases of my own mother. My mother was pissed off at my grandfather, and his name was Joseph Terry. He is a descendant of the Cherokee tribe, which few remained in Arkansas at the time. And he had married my grandmother, and my mother is schizophrenic. And the Fort Worth district attorney knew this. She knew that she had a history of schizophrenia. But what my mother did to me and my brother is this. She kept me up all night after a full day of playing and of going to school and whatnot. And she kept asking me, did your grandfather touch you? Did your grandfather touch you? Did your grandfather touch you? And she was basically asking me if my grandfather had molested me. And all night I had said no. And out of sheer exhaustion and desperation, my brother and I finally said, yeah, he molested us. We couldn't stay awake anymore. And we were being forced, I guess being tortured through sleep deprivation in order to get that conviction out of us. So my grandfather was locked up for 6 months. And eventually it came before a federal grand jury, and the federal judge no-billed my grandfather. And if you're not familiar with legal terms, a no-bill means that a judge is looking over the accusation, looking over the evidences, and completely dismissing it. And the judge wrote a letter to my grandfather apologizing on behalf of the Fort Worth District Attorney, saying that it was completely ridiculous that he was locked up in the first place, that it never should have happened. But people have to remember the district attorneys, the people who prosecute in criminal cases within a county, are politicians. And they earn fame for themselves by high-profile cases. And I'm going to go on record because Jesus said that to be humble. And I'm going to go through another case where a district attorney hot-dogged a case to get media attention. Back in early 2006, we had a stray Rottweiler. It was on our property. It was very hostile. Frankly, it had puppies underneath our trailer. And it was a question of whether the dog had rabies, because it was always coming out from under the trailer and trying to bite my wife, my newborn son, myself, my grandmother. Called animal control several times. Animal control couldn't catch the dog. And management at Monticello Apartments in Springtown, Texas, said if you can safely shoot it with your rifle, do so. So one night I had positioned myself to where I could shoot the animal and be rid of it. And I got to looking at the dog and feeling sorry for it. And I couldn't pull the trigger. I was maybe 20 years old at the time. So what my grandfather ended up doing is putting the dog down with antifreeze, which puts the dog into a deep sleep, puts him into a coma, and it's actually a neurotoxin. It's relatively painless compared to some of the methods, and could be comparable to the way that pounds put down animals, which is what they would have done anyways if they had caught the dog. All right, so the animal died. Local teenagers took a novelty scimitar, that I had been using to chop wood. I've been using it as a machete to chop down tall grass and wood to burn on our outdoor fireplace. They took that, hacked the animal up, put it all over the property. And what ended up happening is I ended up being arrested for felony animal cruelty. And my commanders at my local unit in the National Guard were notified. I was arraigned before a judge for felony animal cruelty, and it was blasted all over the national news that I was the mama dog killer. And the term mama dog, which had never been used before the day that I was arrested, was suddenly being used by every scrungy little redneck in that trailer park. None of the kids played with the dog, but everybody said, "Oh, she was so sweet. He's a monster. He killed her and he was laughing." And they were going on and on like that, and deliberately lying on television because they were getting their 5 minutes of fame. And the prosecution of the district attorney of Barker County got his 5 minutes of fame on national news. And to this day, I'm listed as a torture murderer of animals on PETA's website. PETA has their own America's Most Wanted fucking website, right? Now, after the news story ended, I said, I'm not guilty. I told them, dog was killed with antifreeze. I don't know who the hell chopped it up. Yeah, that was my tool, but somebody trespassed on my property and did it. What did the district attorney do? They dropped all charges. They got their 5 minutes of fucking fame. Everybody in that trailer park got their 5 minutes of fucking fame. And I was demonized on behalf of his political career. In the same way that Charles Dyer was demonized on behalf of the political career of the district attorney of Marlow, Oklahoma. In the same way that these FBI agents are probably cracking open bottles of champagne for railroading a Marine veteran that served tours in Iraq. This is what Americans should be pissed the fuck off about. And Ron Paul was right. People today and Americans think that patriotism is agreeing and going along with everything that your government does. And what is your government doing? Molesting old ladies and children in airports. Nazi-style checkpoints all along the highways. Austin police randomly shooting dogs after they were trespassing without a warrant. A Waco massacre. And after all of these atrocities that I have witnessed, and I've only come to one conclusion. The American public, they don't want to wake up. They want to live in this fantasy world where Al-Qaeda across the sea is the biggest threat to our freedom, and they mistakenly believe that freedom is security and that security is freedom. And they are also mistaken about this security, because this is not security, this is government control of every aspect of their lives. Of course, it's a pissed off rant.